for attending this first conference. IRG has been working for nearly 4 years, 4.5 years, for promoting academic orthopedic research, and not only orthopedic, in terms of other research, we also have the Indian Physiotherapy Research Group. We are also formulating the Indian Diabetology Research Group. So we are going into other faculties also. We believe the research principles remain same. We as orthopedic surgeons have begun in the field of orthopedic research, but no problem in going into other faculties. Now today my topic will be on how to write an introduction. Introduction for a thesis, and this will be the basis for introduction for a journal publication. For IORG, thesis is the groundwork. The final outcome should always be a publication. A thesis without publication has no meaning at all. It will just lie there and being recognized by nobody. So the basic aim of this workshop is also to make it as good as possible for you to get into the best journal possible. So on that basis, I'll discuss everything. This will be in detail for thesis writing, but it will also contain everything that your journal introduction will require. So for thesis, when do you start writing? What do you write? What are the parts of introduction? And how long will it take? So in this slide, what are the parts of introduction? That means we have divided introduction into parts. Thesis as a term appears to be very vast. Kyle has spoken about it. We have formulated plans to break down every section into smaller subsections and give a particular subtitle or subheading to that section so that you don't feel lost. If you want to write an introduction or a thesis, you're like what to include, what not to include, how much literature to review. The basic groundwork has been put up by the earlier lectures. So we now have a topic. Topic has a keyword. We have a template paper and we have a guide. So these are the three resources that we will use, and we will subdivide every section henceforth into smaller subsections, and you will get exact idea of what to write in those. And these are helpful into putting them and editing. This will be a huge volume. To convert it into a journal article, you have to edit it. So all this subsection will help you in editing that. So it will all be organized sequentially. So when to write an introduction, a lot of people say write in the beginning. Most of them agree write in the end. But it's a continuous process. We are divided into 3 phases. Phase 1, 2 and 3. And after that, every phase goes back to the earlier phase, revises it, converts it into a newer phase, and then the final introduction is prepared. So your final introduction is at the end of your thesis. But you start writing at the beginning of it. These are the phases. The first part you write after the review of literature. Second you write after you get your results. Third you write after your discussion. So at every point your introduction will get upgraded notches. But if you start writing your discussion of your introduction after discussion, it will remain where it was. The groundwork is not there. So stepwise, first write the introduction after the review of it. The lecture is coming before the review of literature, but the point is right after the review. What is the purpose? Defines the need of the study. That is the only purpose of introduction. For a journal article, for a thesis, it is slightly more expanded. For a journal, it precisely delineates what are the lacunae in the literature. Now, literature is a huge jigsaw puzzle. There are a lot of pieces that are missing. There are a lot of pieces that are not fitting well. They are ill-fitting pieces. So, a thesis or a research or a journal article tries to smoothen them. If they are ill-fitting, it tries to smoothen them so that they are fitted. If they are absent, it tries to fill in the gap. So your introduction is your primary statement of what you are going to do. Whether you are going to fill in a gap, whether you are going to smoothen out the gap that is present in the literature, that is what your introduction defines. And then in the end, define the nature of problem and current state of knowledge. So it also does that. In fact, it first defines the current state of knowledge and then it defines the lacunae that it will fill. So what are the resources? As I said, we have keywords, we have tabular articulate, we have files. So this theme will be throughout the day. We'll stick to this and help you get through your thesis and your article. So parts of introduction, there are 3 parts. First is a broad introduction of the topic, that is a general introduction in the sense if you are doing a thesis on TKR, you write on osteoarthrosis. What is the problem and things. We'll go into details in that. Second part is arrange according to your keywords. So that is your backbone of your thesis. The keywords that we have identified in earlier 2 lectures, those keywords will help us write the introduction, the second part of it. The third part is your hypothesis. Once you write the second part, you will automatically get your hypothesis. You will not have to think about it. So let's begin with part 1. Begins with the background statement, describe the scope of the study, gives enough background to introduce the problem but not overwhelm. So the basic thing is, like I said, is in general. So for TKR we talk about osteoarthrosis, the burden of the disease and other management options of OA, and whether the TKR, what is the status of TKR in that. Burden disease, epidemiology of OA, incidence, prevalence, options of management of OA and role of TKR. That will be the part 1 of our adopted thesis. That is what we are going to do. We are going to write a thesis in the entire day. So this adopted thesis of ours, that is comparison between high-flex and standard TKR and the outcome, functional outcome. This will be the first part of the introduction. The burden of OA, epidemiology, incidence, prevalence, options in management of OA and role of TKR. Part 2, as I said, is based on your keywords. We had already identified 4 keywords, and depending on that, we are going to. So first part of the second paragraph of introduction, the basic, the broadest keyword we use, that is the TKR, that is the disease. Second, we have taken the outcome measure. Generally, what is the followed protocol is a PICO protocol, that is population, intervention, control and outcome measure. But for thesis writing, we take the broadest one, the population first, and club it with the outcome measure. So second, both the population and the outcome measure are clubbed together, and then we go to specifics. The specific groups of conventional and high-flex, and the comparison part. So the thesis is mostly on the comparison of high-flex and conventional. So this will be the 4 parts of your middle paragraph of introduction. As the title is, prospective comparison of high-flex and standard TKR, does the functional outcome differ? Your introduction will contain all the terms, high-flex, TKR, high-flex, standard and comparison. Also a brief overview of outcome. As I said, outcome measure will club with TKR itself in the first part. Brief about development of TKR and current status of TKR. Second, as I said, is the outcome measure. What are the outcome measures available for TKR in the sense of clinical, functional and radiological? We'll stick to, in this thesis, to functional only, because we are studying only the functional outcome. So knee scores, WOMAC score, functional score, KOS score, any score that is related to that particular thing. And functional score, it is not clinical. So functional in the sense how the patient perceives the outcome of results. So that will be the second. And current status, we'll review the literature according to these things and current status of requirement. Third is specific group. We start with conventional and go to high-flex. So it is basically high-flex is a newer implant. When we are selecting our topic, we went to a guide with the topic of high-flex TKR. So our primary thing was to do something with high-flex. Then he suggested us to do a comparative between conventional and high-flex. So we discussed the conventional first, the older one first, which will create the basis for going towards high-flex. So general introduction of conventional, what were the limitations of conventional, and why the high friction is required. Then results of high friction current scenario. So this will be your third part. So conventional introduction, results of conventional, limitations, and high flex introduction, the need of high flex, results of high flex. The fourth part will be the studies that are pertaining to comparison between standard and conventional, standard and high flex. So they can be any type, mechanical, functional, radiological, no limitations for it. And you define the current state of literature with that. So these are all the things that you need to define in current state of literature, time since last publication. I mean, how will your study differ from current state of literature? Like if the same studies, similar studies are published, how is our research going to differ? Maybe it is the last publication was 3-4 years back. Earlier publication were very small group. There are different geosocial, as Kyle said, the research that was in Korea. So their results do not apply to us in India. So we need to produce our research to validate for our patient groups. There may be different diagnoses. Those theses were only for osteoarthrosis. This was for rheumatoid. Different techniques of performing the surgery and different implant use. Last part is formulating the hypothesis. State the specific research question, proceed with the phrase that answers. In this study B or in this study we are going to question or we are going to compare the functional outcome of high flex with standard implants. In the sense, when you selecting your topic and when you selected your title and written your protocol, you are very clear with your hypothesis. What in your introduction is, you are adding review of literature which is thorough with this hypothesis. So you just state it in this board. We are